Recently, I was able to sit down with King David, aka Dave WiltOS, who spearheads the skilled and passionate team that's bringing the Community Edition to life. We spent an hour discussing his aspirations for the mod, his trip to Ubisoft, and talked about our favorite moments in Dark Messiah. Here's what he has to say about his aspirations for the project. So I'm here with King David, lead developer for the Dark Messiah restoration mod and community mod patches in the game's upcoming Community Edition. Thanks for taking the time again. What would you say got you into this project? What got you into modding in the first place?
So when I was a kid, I was with my friends in high school complaining about how we didn't really have a good game to play together.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, I just said, screw it, we're going to try and make our own. They gave up halfway, but then I kept going, and I made a really terrible Half-Life 2 deathmatch mod. And then from there, I really... I don't know. It feels nice being able to like tinker things and then see the results of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that pretty much brought me into that. Now for Dark Messiah though, honestly, I would place that more on luck. I was talking with one of those friends. It's still playing with them at the time. I think this was like 6 or 7 years ago at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about co-op mods. Specifically, talking about Alien vs Predator 2, so one of another favorites of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a co-op mod there that's it's not really well made, but it's fun. You get the concept of it, and you wish people develop it more, but then they quit. Then we were thinking about more games that things like that happen, and we saw Dark Messiah, and we're like, oh, people made like Portal co-op, but just using console commands. We could probably do that right now. Mm-hmm. We went to do it, and sure enough, it was broken. And with the same story, I said, you know what, I'm gonna figure out how to fix this thing, and then that pretty much launched me into the world of, well, pretty much reverse engineering this entire game and where I am now.
That's crazy. So you specifically sought out Dark Messiah because you had some previous love for the game, previous relationship or fond memories of it, or was it just kind of like, this was a cool game, this one I'll jump into this because I already know something about Source? Or
the reason why I jumped into specifically trying reverse engineering it, I think, was because I was familiar with Source already. Mm-hmm. I'd done a lot of Gary's Mod stuff, but that wasn't the reason why we were even thinking about Dark Messiah. Like, it's a great game. I love the game. Mm-hmm. Of the games that I grew up playing, on the Source engine type or Valve, I guess, radius, I don't know how to describe it. Half-Life, one of the first games I played, must have been 6 years old when I first tried it. Half-Life 2, and then Dark Messiah shortly after that. And all these games kind of influenced the decision making behind how I look at games as a whole. Mm-hmm. And so once we started thinking about Dark Messiah, I was like, wow, I haven't played this game. It must have been 10 years at that conversation, and that is a great excuse to play it again. So that was why it homed in on that. Again, I call it luck because it was just something that just came up, and we had the time, so we tried to play it, and it just was the right thing for me at that point.
Yeah, I'm assuming that some of the experience trying to get it working on modern PCs is a huge factor in that. So I did find the restoration mod extremely helpful for capturing all the footage for the video and so forth as well. But I'd say one of the biggest surprises is considering how fondly people remember this game and how influential it has become. You can't find it really anywhere. There's a Steam version. It's kind of busted. And other than that, you're kind of looking at eBay for physical copies, or you're taking chances on archive. So what would you say, well, basically that's one of the major tentpoles of the video. What would you say is the motivating factor in regards to game preservation for this for you? What would you say is your stance on game preservation at large, and how does that relate to your work with the community mod?
Game preservation to me is a big deal. I am an avid supporter of Stop Killing Games. That whole movement to me is just natural. I mean, mm-hmm. if games are a work of art, they are what they are. People watch movies, they get an experience, emotional draw, and a game is essentially a playable movie, right? And the idea that you have this fond memory of something, I mean, apply this to anything. What if you couldn't eat pizza tomorrow? What if you couldn't watch your favorite movie tomorrow? It just doesn't seem right. So I can't say that necessarily pushed me into this per se, but it is extremely important to me, and I would say that that's actually why the restoration mod came to be as a whole. Because originally, I was working on this co-op mod, and the game is in a broken state, and a lot of the fixes I had to do just to get the co-op working, you realize that, well, actually, I may actually be fixing the game at this point, and then you start hearing people with more issues, and you can't help but realize that people probably deserve to play this game at the best state, the way I played it, when it was working properly. So that's where that restoration mod kind of branched out and did that. So, yeah. I mean, I hope that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like, for me, game preservation is super important. I agree with you on all the points about, yes, games are art. They can evoke an emotional response that makes it art. I mean, there's games that are the equivalent of motel room art. There's games that are the equivalent of the Sistine Chapel, So it's a wide range. I also think that preservation is both the best and worst it could ever possibly be right now. It is completely unsupported by companies because they don't see the money in it. And it is extremely supported by grassroots movements, basically, like the groundswell of fan movements that are, like the thing with Myriant happening, where they had, this massive archive of ROMs, and then they basically the internet sourced a bunch of people that were able to archive everything before Myriant went down and stuff like that. So it's like you see a lot of it in the community, which I think is super important. And the Stop Killing Games touch point is really appropriate because right now there's a movement for everyone to not own anything anymore. They have to rent it from companies. So I feel like it's very pro-consumer. Kind of related to that, the industry seems to be having a bit of a remaster fever right now. Do you think there's any danger of your mod efforts being threatened by a Dark Messiah remaster?
I feel like from my perspective, danger is just completely the wrong word. I look at these remasters as things that, I mean, if you like the game, you get more of game for game at that point. I understand there's a whole business aspect that starts going downhill, and you kill support for one project because you want to re-release it later. There's problems around that whole thing, but in general, there's nothing inherently wrong with the remaster. If people treat it with respect, hell, even if you give developers the opportunity to give a different perspective on that game, and as long as you understand that it isn't the same game, I feel like that's just more for you to experience. It's same but different situation. In terms of how that would affect the mod projects and in general the community edition, I don't see that mattering much. Ubisoft and we've had conversations about remasters. I've given them, pointers on Source 2 stuff, and it's something that they might do, might not do. I can't put words in a corporation's mouth, but in terms of the people I've spoken to, it is something they'd love to do. It's just that, as you mentioned, the manpower becomes a problem, and the money, and trying to justify that. I mean, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But for me, if they do that, I would probably get involved with that remaster, at least if they ask for it, because I think that's really the only way you get a good remaster. You got to talk to the community, talk to people who love the game. They're going to tell you how to do it right or wrong.
Yeah, when I say danger, a lot of what I see is directly related to preservation, because you'll see something you'll see, for example, the most famous one's probably the Rockstar GTA trilogy that got remastered, and then the original was taken down, for example. And we're seeing more and more of that, where, a game will be remastered, the original is now no longer available for sale, and then you're stuck with whatever the remaster is. And I don't always feel like there's parity in those experiences. I feel like sometimes the original nails things better, and sometimes the remaster nails things better. I think maybe the System Shock remaster is possibly the best one I've ever played. It's almost a little too close to the original, for example. Even keeping some of the flaws that the original game had. But yeah, that's kind of what I meant by the danger of the possibility of your project either being, DMCA'd or somehow otherwise obscured, or taken, if they take the original version of Dark Messiah down from Steam, which is the only place you can get it right now, where do you go from there? But would you kind of consider, kind of relating to that, would you kind of consider that your community mod is a remaster of Dark Messiah. In a lot of ways, it kind of feels like one.
I'm scared of that wording. You know, I tried to the way that I've always been talking about the project is it is a community edition. You know, we're a bunch of people who are not getting paid. You know, we're spending as much free time as we can on this thing, and we're doing a whole game studio's work trying to get this done as fast as possible. There's probably going to be a lot of holes. I would be thankful if we get this thing out in one piece and it's at least 50% to the original one. That's not to say my team is. I have full confidence in the team that we could do it. But when it comes to people who really remember something, you're playing with both nostalgia and what's actually happening in the game. That becomes very difficult to emulate in and of itself.
Sure.
I don't want to call it a remaster in that sense. I would closely just call it maybe just a community edition. I don't even want to use that word. And to answer the previous question on the danger thing, that I kind of understand you a bit more. There's no chance of that happening unless something changes at the higher up level with Ubisoft. Spoken with the executives of like the Might and Magic franchise. I'm constantly speaking with them.
Okay.
And they are just 100% in support of this project. They have been from the beginning. And in fact, a lot of the progress we've made to be able to take that trip to Ubisoft, to be able to even do the community edition, was thanks to his support, along with a few other special names that I will probably mention at some point because they deserve the shout out. But yeah, I just don't see that happening. I think that we'll have a sort of combinational effort where we can add things to the community edition, and if they do decide to go the remaster route, they can see, okay, this is something people like. Why don't we bake that in, or let's maybe replicate that, or let's call them in and improve it.
Yeah,
it's very much a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, like a collaborative process rather than
that's the word. Thank you.
Yeah, rather than something that erases or supersedes your work. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, why don't you talk a little bit about your visit to Ubisoft offices? That's pretty cool that you don't really see that kind of support from a AAA company anymore. So I found that really surprising and fascinating that someone from a AAA company would be like, oh, okay, let's get these community members in here to take a look at what we've got in house and help them with a fan effort. That seems like that blows me out of the water. I don't think I can recall an instance of that happening elsewhere.
Yeah, that I'm gonna chalk that one up to luck as well. I think that it's just the right time, right place situation. The whole endeavor of getting in contact with Ubisoft. I mean, this is like their story. I'll focus on your question about the trip first.
Sure.
The trip itself was great. I mean, like I said, Eric, which is the Might and Magic head, so he has been fighting for this project to get some support at the corporate level. I mean, this is coming from like he and I'll name some names. So there's Marta at the Montreal office and also Elohim at the Montreal office, which I met there. So Marta was originally part of the user-generated content team at Ubisoft, which you're talking about Ubisoft. You say, oh well, they don't do mods, they don't support anything, but they used to for actually a good amount of time. They had a whole division thing and stuff. So they were comfortable working with mod teams, and she used to be part of that. And so at some point, once this reached Eric's ears, he's pulling up old assets. He's like, okay, what do you need for this? Because he knows I was reverse engineering it. He's like, I don't know if I can get you the code through email, but like, here's some old assets that we had, some cut content. Does that help? I got some elements content. Does that help? I got some concept art. I've seen things like from Dark Messiah 2 that I can't even share that I wish I could.
Cool.
That we're using to inspire some of the stuff we might bring into the community edition, like after we get the foundations. So they were providing so much support and so much hunting. I mean, Marta as well was looking at. She was digging deep into like the old computers, the hard drives that didn't even work anymore, and getting restoration stuff going.
Wow.
So that we can get some of those files that they used to have. So I think that really getting that corporate approval for me to show up at the office was something that, like, if Eric could, he would have approved that the day that I was speaking with him because of just what I was presenting with the project. Mm-hmm. But after some years of that, and being able to finally get in there, the actual experience in there was great. I mean, they gave me a tour. I took some pictures of that and posted it on Knockout, which is the main forum that I use for all the updates and things like that. Mm-hmm. And you get to see and speak to all these people who, like, these are people who they probably didn't even know what Dark Messiah was. Only the Marta and Elohim really did. Sure. But they, you speak with these people that are passionate about the industry and, like, even just mundane things like optimization. Like, you ask somebody who's working in the game industry about optimization, they're like, oh, that's, why would I ever want to do that?
Oh, that's so important.
You talk to these guys, it's boring. Yeah.
Well, it's boring, but it's so important because that's how many people can access your game. That's how many people can play your game.
I know.
So
I'm teasing. I'm teasing the guys over there. That's it. But these guys are just so passionate about it that you really, like, it's such a dissonant, like, you talk about what's happening at the corporate level versus what's happening at that lower level, and it's like, what's going on? Yeah. Some of these people need to be in charge. But
definitely. I think it's, like, super easy to lose sight, especially now because the game industry is just hemorrhaging jobs big time. It's really easy to lose sight that there are a ton of passionate people in there still making things,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely devastating to see, like, every day waking up, opening your phone and seeing, like, oh, another 1,000 jobs gone from, Microsoft or from, Epic or whatever. Entire studios getting shut down. Some of my favorites, right? But there's still people out there that believe enough to want to support something like this that'll go and dig up 20-year-old files from busted hard drives to make something like this work, which is it's super inspiring. I think it's, like, really cool.
Yeah, I'm sorry for rambling and going. No,
please ramble. It's very interesting to me. I'm totally into it.
Okay.
Like I said, I like to keep these, like, a very casual conversation, and, like, the questions are just stuff I thought of that it's like, if we need to kind of go back to the base, it's fine. And if we get on tangents that are interesting, that's fine too. I'm not making a podcast here. It's maybe, it's something I'm going to take clips from and be like, hey, why not go to the source and talk directly to the people that are making this mod? Because my whole tent pole for this video is directly related to game preservation. It's kind of like what I feel like you guys are doing is you're taking a game that's a thread away from becoming lost media, and you're bringing it back and potentially creating a renaissance moment for it. So that, I think, is extremely interesting, and I think there's, like, a groundswell for it. And the fact that you had some write-ups in, PC Gamer and stuff like this over the last year or two here is really interesting, and I love to see it. I love to see it. So, and I know Roland, the other half of the channel, he's just as equally on board with, like, preservation movements like this as well.
Great.
So that's kind of, like, my main motivation is just to kind of, like, talk to you a little bit and see your motivations, your passions about this and your experiences with it, and keep it really positive. You know what I mean? What would you say, out of all of the 20-year-old assets that were dug up from those ancient hard drives, what would you say are you looking to implement the most? What are you looking forward to implementing the most in the community edition coming up? Or if you can talk about it.
I'm trying to think about what I can talk about. That's rough because there's a lot of cool stuff. Maybe I can. So there is this one concept art for Dark Messiah 2 that shows Xana in a fully kind of she has her wings and her full demon form and stuff like that. So let's just say that there were some ideas on implementing some cross movement type controls, given that you have somebody who has wings and sort of make even the combat a little more kinetic on top of that.
Okay.
That I just there's probably going to be issues with it. There's a reason some of this stuff hasn't been implemented yet, but it's just these kind of cool ideas that we can now extend. I guess a lot of that cut content and the we didn't, unfortunately for me, I think that a lot of that content I saw mostly from the Dark Messiah 2 stuff in terms of like the aspirations or what they might do.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that we were restoring in the restoration mod, it's a combination of things that were just left over in files from Elements because they just, Arcane didn't have, at least I don't think Arcane has the source, but Ubisoft definitely doesn't have the source anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And with all the corporate shuffling with like ZeniMax and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure that thing is gone forever. But also just some of the level concepts, while they were, I guess, not so interesting because we're looking at small, half-baked levels.
Yeah.
You get simple things like the entire Stonehelm gate sequence that everybody remembers. You just walk in on a horse and you just fall off and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You can control that horse. You were supposed to be part of the defense at the gate. There was a whole thing where you have to go to the alarm tower, and actually I think a modder managed to replicate some of that from concept that they were able to find online. And we were able to find some of the actual, I guess, storylines that would follow that. So
Sure.
It's things like that I would be most excited for because, again, it's new but it's old situation. You recognize this, but there's just that slight difference that, oh, this is cool that this is happening now and stuff like that.
Yeah, that is really cool. I had no idea it was so much involved. It just kind of feels like a first-person cutscene. Like, I kind of liken it to the beginning of Skyrim where you're on the wagon.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, that's like 6 years before Skyrim, something like that. So, but the fact that they plan to make that an entire interactive sequence is really cool. I also think that like Dark Messiah doesn't get enough credit for how immersed you feel in that game in the moment. Like even the cutscenes are all in first person, So you are basically supposed to be directly put in the shoes of Seraph that entire time and seeing everything from his point of view. So I think that's really cool too. That's my tangent.
I listen. It's a good observation too, because genuinely, I like to think that Dark Messiah and even Vampire the Masquerades, I think those are games that came out after or during Half-Life 2's like real pickup there when it got released. So all those influences that Valve made from Half-Life and then doubling it up into the Source engine and really seeing those utilized. I mean, there's a reason that I think that Vampire the Masquerades and Dark Messiah are both like classics now, at least they're brought up as such, because you just have a really good, direction. You have a good narrative there. It's just a lot to enjoy, especially because you, like you said, you're experiencing it first person. You are the character. You get to play it through.
Yeah.
The only problem I have is that you don't get to do a lot of the, let's say, more sadistic things that you could do in Half-Life 1 where like, okay, I don't want to talk to this guy. You end up killing a scientist. Like, I can't imagine what would happen. Or like even Skyrim where you just, for some reason, decide to piss off every guard over there. Like, you now have to reconcile with that. I feel like that kind of decision making would have been nice, but at the same time, you're asking people to make a game under crunch and then add features. It's like, all right, we need to breathe a little bit.
I mean, I do feel like it's less of a open world and more of a straight line for sure. It's a level-based linear experience, which is, it works to its credit, and I feel like that's why it falls better in the immersive sim genre than something like Skyrim ever would, where that's like an open world playground amusement park kind of situation. But yeah, that enclosed directional approach where you have a bunch of small, highly interactive set pieces is like the core of immersive sim to me. It's all about that player agency at a base level and providing you with a really simple objective, but a ton of different ways to accomplish it. So that's always really cool, I think. I love games that provide agency in general. I think that's like, why are we concentrating on graphics when we could concentrate on the simulation more, So
you look at indie games that have terrible graphics, quote unquote, but it's like the funnest stuff to play. Like I think Herat, is a really fun one. It's it's a boomer shooter stuff.
I played Herat. Yeah.
It's all brown, but you're having a great time.
It's like Depression Poland, but with guns. God,
exactly.
Yeah. Or like I was playing Cruelty Squad. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. I'm playing it for another video. It is an assault on the senses, but it is one of the deepest sims I've ever played. It's crazy. Like there's secrets within secrets. There's a secret where you have to change the game resolution to enter a room. Like it's that level of crazy. You need a wiki to play it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, and that's made by one guy. One guy made it.
Yeah.
You know, like and all that stuff would not exist. There's a kick button in that game too. All that stuff would not exist if not for, you know, Dark Messiah. That's the kind of thing I'm saying is like they really maxed out the environmental interactivity aspects for a lot of the game. And I mean, sure, it's a little bit like Hollywood movie prop where it's like, oh, I see some barrels over there. It's like you're walking through a room of Chekhov's guns that could go off at any time. But but I really loved that. It was like, oh, I'm in a playground, you know, like this becomes a puzzle where I try to position the guards over the silliest ways of kicking them into spikes or like off of a cliff or freezing the ground so they slip and fall. It's like, it's amazing. It's great. Yeah, I guess we definitely went on a tangent there, but how did you end up talking to Ubisoft in the first place about modding Dark Messiah?
Oh boy. Okay, so that is a very long story.
Okay.
So I don't think I actually got into direct contact with Ubisoft until maybe 2 or 3 years into development. Okay. Originally, I with this project, I taught myself how to reverse engineer things with IDA and Ghidra or whatever it's called. I went through that whole process, and that was the first, I think, year of just understanding how to actually do that. Mm-hmm. Then, as I got something more concrete, it was kind of unclear if what I was doing was legal at all. Because I mean, it's reverse engineering an old game. Some would say that you can make a hack or you just completely release the equivalent of it and you're done. So what I ended up doing was I actually went to contact Valve and some old Arcane devs because they were still somewhat available. And I was telling them about the projects. I contacted them on LinkedIn, and I don't know. They are just over the moon with this stuff. They're so happy to hear it. I tell you how much they influenced me. But a lot of these guys, they left the industry. We're talking about a 20-year-old game at this point. So they didn't even know who to ask anymore. I had spoken with Rafael Colantonio, and in fact, in the last years, I was speaking to him about his band and things like that. So I like to think we have a good relationship. But even he's like, maybe I can talk to the old director. That he might know who to go to and stuff like that. And it was just pretty much jumping around and doing things like that. Eventually, I finally got an email that I could use for an Ubisoft lawyer, because my objective here was to say, okay, I just want to make sure we don't get DMCA'd. I'm not even looking for help. I want this project to survive. And I want to also put in the meanwhile that my team was having an absolute heart attack, because this goes against any logic that you see online. Like, you wait till your project is done and then get permission, or rather release it and then ask for forgiveness.
Right.
But I was telling them, that the one thing that I kept as a moral code here is that I want to be as respectful to everyone in the process as possible. I was talking to Arcane people, like I said, talking to Valve. At some point, I actually spoke with Gabe Newell, though very briefly, and he forwarded me to a bunch of the Valve devs that are still there that worked on Dark Messiah and were giving me some pointers on the engine and stuff. So I was trying to make sure that I had everybody's blessing in the circle there. So going to Ubisoft and asking for legal approval is just a no-brainer to me. And whatever happened at that point, I felt like it just felt impossible to me that they would say no because I'm doing it the right way. And I guess I got lucky. I don't know. It's hard for me to tell anybody to do exactly what I did, because I know that I probably did get lucky, and again, right place, right time. But when I got a response from them, he said, let me pull this up and I will I'll get back to you, essentially. And I was waiting to hear back before I could release the co-op mod and stuff, and eventually I'll admit that I started poking some higher up lawyers, including the chief legal officer of Ubisoft, and they actually responded to me as well, which I found hilarious.
That's crazy. Yeah.
But they were also supportive of the project, and at that point I was telling the team, like, listen, there's just no way that we're gonna get screwed with this one. Like, I genuinely think that Ubisoft likes what we're doing here. I mean, logically they should. We're generating value for their product here. So when we finally got the approval, I made that big post about getting the blank check, which that terminology is haunting me to this day, because I realized that it's supposed to be it's supposed to have carte blanche. It wasn't necessarily a
blank check feels like they're just paying you to do it. That's why I was like, that's a weird headline. And then I read the article and I'm like, that's not what a blank check is.
So that was me, I think, having a very excited standpoint where I'm like, I just got to tell somebody right now that we're actually not going to die. So I wrote that all out, and then from there, PC Gamer picked it up. More people at Ubisoft started getting involved. Marta, that's when Marta entered the fray, and she was like, we like you got through all this stuff, and it's commendable the work you're doing. So why don't I try to find a way to help you get this stuff done? And she was just, like I said, digging through, finding as much as she could. But of course, these things take approval, and she can't do everything from there. Sure. And then that's when Eric came in, and once I started laying out everything that the team was doing, Eric was just like in awe that a team of 2 or 3 people at the time was accomplishing everything that was there. I mean, the way I presented it to them was essentially, look, I've already reverse engineered half this game, and I don't even have any help with that. And really my objective here is just to make sure that, A, people can enjoy this new experience, but also B, that people can even enjoy the game at all at that point. Because this is already, we're talking maybe like year 3 or 4 into development, and that there was just nothing bad to say anymore. So that's when Eric started fighting, and then that's how I ended up here today, I guess. So I have the code for Elements, and I'm working on that community edition.
Yeah, that's crazy. Related to the community edition, so there's a lot of disparate parts out there that kind of comprise it right now. One thing that I will say is it would be really nice if there was like a single package installer for it, because as far as the layman goes, it is very difficult for people to get it up and running.
Okay.
I had to dig through a lot of different stuff. I went through ModDB first, and I was like, and then I went into your Discord, found some tips there. I managed to piece it all together, and I plan to kind of release a companion video that's just, here's how to get it running. And I know that you did recommend setting up a Git repo to have it automatically update, but I also understand why people are very gun shy about that, especially now with surveillance and AI and Windows 11 in general being very very invasive. So it's going to be based on just installing the repos directly. But is one of the objectives to make it a single click package installer, like something like the GOG one click mod feature and stuff like that for Fallout London or the Stalker trilogy?
So I guess the short answer is yes. Now the actual answer is much better, because we're going to be on Steam. So there will be a one-click. It's called the install button on Steam.
Awesome.
And then you're good to go. The plan is to bake, obviously those fixes that I even put for the restoration mod, those are not very good fixes because I have to inject into the base game, which is difficult in and of itself, and you can't make good fixes with that.
Right.
But with the ability, now that we have the Steam release and we're going to be doing the code on our own, we're going to be able to implement those fixes directly and even go further and stuff like that. And that just because I'm not sure if I ever mentioned this in the articles, but I want to also say that this isn't just for the single player. Our goal is to also get the multiplayer involved in that, and it's not going to be all at once. But essentially, having a single game where you have all of those aspects together, and in some cases you can combine those aspects. We have plans of having the multiplayer. You could have the inventories from single player. You can make your own skills. You can have your own classes. We're implementing VScript right now because it's already built into the Source SDK, and we're figuring out how do we get this working onto Dark Messiah. And one of those easiest things is a complete custom game mode built into a map in the multiplayer, or custom weapons, custom enemies. It's already accessible in our code. So
that's great.
I think that that one-click installer, we're going a little too far now. We have 2 games in that one click.
I mean, that's great because right now as it stands, like literally Dark Messiah single player and multiplayer are 2 different entries on the Steam store. They're different app IDs or whatever, because I noticed that they're 2 different executables basically. And I I've got this feeling like people are not going to want to screw around with like port forwarding. What am I saying?
Yeah.
You know, like it took some labor to get it working at all, and it was janky. But I mean, I've got a highlight reel of at least like an hour of me and Roland playing the co-op, and I'm like, you know, this is janky, but this is really fun. And once it's polished, I can see the potential of it. Like going through the whole game with your friend is going to be awesome. You know.
The hopes, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what would you say is the biggest challenge facing your efforts with the community edition right now?
Ooh, you know, it's and I'm gonna say this with no disrespect to anyone involved, because this is when people get very sensitive when it comes to work, and trust me, I understand from a personal perspective how much
you're
work goes
putting
into
a piece
it.
of yourself into it for sure.
Yeah,
understandable.
So a lot of that is reconciling code. I mean, honestly, we're talking about a game that's 20 years old now, right? It's coming up in October.
Yep.
And then we're talking about using the version of the game that came out 5 years later that was basically hogtied to work on an Xbox on a version of the source engine that was not yet publicly released. So you get like there's at least 4 different versions of the source engine intermingling in there, and trying to figure out, all right, what do they actually want to do with this type of stuff? Because again, it's all about the feel. It's all about making sure we're being honest and respectful of the stuff there. That's the biggest thing. And then of course merging that into the newest source engine branches along with our own new features and things that we're implementing. It's humongously difficult, and I don't even think this is something that can be fixed by like manpower. This is just something that you have to always be aware of, and I'm hoping that when we actually get this out, at least because we're really trying to hammer home on a really close testing date where we just have a very simple, here is a Half-Life 2 deathmatch map, can you try swinging around a Seraph, like getting that feel right as early as possible is what I'm stressing about the most, because like you mentioned, this is a game that influenced a lot of immersive sims, so if we don't actually get the feel right, then we did not do a good job.
Yeah, totally. That sounds like a lot to consolidate, I gotta say. That's like you're going from so many disparate sources and trying to boil it into like one final like polished product, and that's just like commendably ambitious. That's just nuts. So far, I know it's been multiple years of being within this project, but so far, what would you say is the accomplishment that you're most proud of in regards to the mod?
Honestly, I wouldn't even place my own accomplishment as something I'm the most proud of. I actually think that I'm the most proud of my team and the people that I don't even know how to describe it. You know, I've been working on this thing alone for 3 years, and this is something that I was doing alone. And having these people that can be as passionate as me, can put up with like the schedules of me having to do this at midnight and tell them to check things, or, oh, hey, we got to do this before the Ubisoft meeting. Can you guys get this done so we can have something to show? Or like just a lot of pedantic checking and things. And it just, I don't know, it's just such a good feeling to have. And I know that a lot of the community shares, like they would, if they could, they would be in here doing the same thing. It's just I can't technically give them anything to do because some people aren't as experienced with certain aspects that I do need. But I think that to me is the part that I really highlight as the thing I enjoy the most, or like the thing I'm most proud of in this project. It's just the work that the team does, and just genuinely meeting the team and having people like that by my side. Like that's just, to me, the happiest point.
Yeah. I mean, putting together a good team is super important. Nothing really occurs in a vacuum, you know? But was there like a particular like moment or like a feature that you finally got working that was like such a breakthrough that like you were extremely proud of in regards to the mod's progress?
Like I said, I can't really, I don't even look at it like that. Like I can't. For me, you know, all of those issues that I was running into, it's just another issue in the pile. We got to keep the rock moving, you know.
Okay.
That's all it's going. So I don't think I'm gonna really be able to sit back and say, okay, I've done a good job or whatever until I'm actually done with this thing.
Okay.
Because that means that I've accomplished the goal, right?
Keeps you humble for sure.
Yeah.
I get you. What's your greatest hopes for the mod project in the future going forward?
Honestly, so outside of the obvious, the gameplay stuff, more on like aspirations. Let's see.
Aspirations. Just
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that people get to enjoy this game like I did when it first came out, like just really going through and having that, basically having a new experience from something they already love and being able to rekindle that fire. I think that that's something that I would really, really hope we could do. But because of the way we're making the tools, I also hope that more people in the future would consider working on the game. You know, our actual plan here is to eventually release everything we're doing open source to some degree, obviously due to licensing, but to be able to let people make like whole mods like you could with the SDK, or continue to maintain the game without me and stuff like that. I mean, that's what I hope that I can set that up properly, and that it actually, we have people that would be able to do such a thing.
Oh, okay.
So then we have the preservation done. Nothing to worry about. In fact, the game could keep growing at that point.
Yeah, you kind of have like your own Gary's mod going at that point. You know?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I don't think we could do that.
So the goal is kind of like to leave a legacy where people can make it their own, which is, I think that's really cool. So what do you think is the best way for anyone watching this to help you right now, to help you and your team get this across the goalpost?
You know, I have a lot of odd jobs that need to be done, but honestly, at this stage, a lot of that work is, I mean, if you're willing to do mundane things, like for example, the RTX mod is something that we do want to continue developing and we want to keep going, but it kind of gets pushed on the wayside because we need to keep programming aspects. We're not gonna be able to have RTX anything until the game's up.
Right.
So like asset making and things like that is difficult. Basically, let's go back. So if people really want to help and they're willing to do things that are just not gonna be fun for like the first half year, then I have like a little Google community team form application, and I try to get through that in between my free time as much as possible. So I know I've got a couple of people that are on red over there that need to work through. But if you want to do that stuff, apply. Send me a DM. I'm always, literally, if you ping me in the Discord, in the Dark Messiah channel that we have, I will probably always respond to you. I like talking to people over there, especially about the game or ideas, because that directs us. You know, if you even like to just give ideas, I mean, the hardest part is consolidating all those ideas in one place. So you want to make a sheet that I can download and put into our archives for like, you know, this, let's have a look at this once we get far enough, or let's put this in the pipeline or something. Things like that. Just be vocal, basically. Just let us know what you want, what you think is broken, what you think should change, anything like that, so we can take that into consideration, because this is a community edition, right? Which means it's for the community. I need to talk to the community to know what you guys want.
Absolutely. Kind of in the same spirit, will the community edition, will that still remain free of charge even after it's been released onto Steam as its own app?
I hope so.
Okay.
Unless somebody comes out and unless there's some corporate thing that I'm not part of right now that's about to change all that, it should be free. I mean, the way that we've spoken about it, and Ubisoft is in the same degree of that. You know, people are playing this game half broken. It would be nice if this thing was working. They already paid for the game in some form, so it makes sense that they should
be able to
play
keep
it going, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I mean, let's just say some fun questions. I mean, we've kind of gone over everything. Let's just talk about some fun stuff. What would you say is your favorite part of Dark Messiah? Was there like a particular gameplay moment that made you fall in love with it?
I think that the gameplay moment that everybody thinks of is the in Menelag's castle. You get the chandelier swinging side to side.
Yep.
I think that set piece is just hilarious to work through. And I think that that's kind of what hooked me in. Is just once you really get to see what those, you know, all the different traps and tools that they set up in an actual environment, you can't help but laugh sometimes how convenient they are, but also enjoy that you get to actually mess around with them. But I actually think that what I would highlight more is inside the temple island, where you have there's like this, I don't even know how to describe it. I guess like a long, is it like a well? Is it a cave? I don't know, but it's like a bunch of stone and moss going upward in this towering thing, and you have to rope bow your way up essentially.
Oh,
I think
man.
that set piece is just
A
breathtaking
spider
to
well.
me. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Oh,
All right.
that was
You're
one
in
of
the right
that was one of
place.
my pain points in the game. I'm like, this is a cool idea, but every 5 seconds there's a spider chewing my ankles off.
I think that I respect, not only is that like area to me very beautiful, but also I respect that kind of game decision where you just are throwing your players into a very sadistic situation that they now need to work their way out of, or
Yep.
climb out of, to include the pun.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the one that I would highlight the most, even if it is annoying.
Yeah. I think, man, like core memory wise, I gotta say the orc temple ascend, like the beginning of that where you're outside, is probably like
Oh.
the first thing I really got into, because I remember playing a demo of it like a million years ago and being like, oh, I could just kick these guys off of the cliff. I can throw barrels down the stairs and play Donkey Kong. Like, this is great, you know? Or like using the freeze spell on the ground to make them just fly off the side and stuff. Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
thought that was like one of the best playgrounds in the whole game, because it was like you have all these just danger everywhere, just hazards everywhere, and then they throw a bunch of orcs at you and they're like, have fun. So I really love that section for sure. I also think that the boat doesn't get enough credit. Like going from outside of the boat into the boat and like infiltrating it, that is a very fun section, because they just literally put a magic staff in front of you that reflects all the fireballs these guys are shooting your way. So if you're like, what if I just use this staff, you're like reflecting all their stuff back at them the whole time. It's really good.
You have to appreciate those convenient moments of like, looks very useful right about now.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's a power trip too, right? Like you get that and you're like, haha, suckers, try
Yep.
this.
It's also like the first time you see goblins in the game, and you can free
That is
them to
true.
help you. You can take them out of their cages and they'll help you, which is great. I did you ever end up playing Arx Fatalis, the game that was before this by Arcane?
I did not actually fully play it. I think I launched it up once and then I was having issues.
Okay.
This must have been years ago.
There is a
You know.
restoration patch for that game as well.
I figured.
Yep. But if you have seen the goblins in Arx Fatalis and like how funny they are and like their little like side conversations with each other, I think they basically took that and they're like, we got to put this in Dark Messiah. And that's why the goblins have all these silly little conversations. There's the one about like, oh, they gave me this orc's liver to eat. They gave me 2 livers from this orc. And the guy's like, orcs don't have 2 livers, dude. So it's like you ate something else. Like just bumping in and hearing those little moments. Like it reminds me of like Thief the Dark Project, where the guards will have those little side conversations with each
Thief's
other.
another good one.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. There's a lot of just like really good core memories, and it'll be really cool for people that are rallying around the whole ImSim tag to get into a game that I feel is like super underappreciated. Like yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else that you'd like to include or promote while we're here? We're coming up on an hour, so I figure
Yeah. I think it's good to cut off at 4. I have a meeting I have to get to for work. Actually, the fun is over.
Yeah.
So let me think. Anything that I want to promote or say? I guess I want to give a shout out to my team. That has been basically the reason why we've gotten this far. I know that you're asking me, well, how'd you get in contact with Ubisoft? How'd you get whatever? But I think that what's not being seen is the work that they do, and in terms of preparing and then presenting that stuff to show that we are competent enough and that we can earn that respect from Ubisoft to say, okay, well, we can trust these guys with something. Like if I just came alone, I'm gonna be showing them code, and it's not really gonna match them. But I've got level designers, we've got character artists, we got all sorts of things like that, and they're making beautiful work. And you show that to these guys, and they're like, how big is your team again? Like, what is going on here? We're paying these people a lot of money, and you guys are producing equivalent work. I think the biggest compliment we got was the first meeting or second meeting, that I had with Eric, and I finally showed him like a full package of the entire team's work. He said that this is like AAA quality work that some of those maps look like. I mean, Menush Granto had just released a whole little side story mission for Dark Messiah, and it's honestly, if you walk through there and you look at the vistas, it's beautiful. And then as well, Cordy Eduardo, he put out just a whole proof of concept for a roguelike dungeon thing that we're doing, and it's like he taught himself how to program. He put the environments together, and the environments are close to a proof of concept because it's randomly generated. But now I go and I show that to Ubisoft, and it's like, here's what we did with no access to the code and did all that stuff, and they're like, okay, what the hell? This is great. Like, that's amazing. So I want to give a shout out to the team for that. I also want to say to anyone who, because I did get messages from people asking about like, oh, can you get Ubisoft to release this code, or can you do like, how about, would you guys ever think of doing like Might and Magic Legends 5 or whatever it was? I don't remember exactly, but there's a point when you're doing mod development where you have to, you want a AAA company to give you anything you want, but at the same time, you have to be aware that you are just a mod development team. You're not a studio, so you have to build the rapport. You have to build trust between each other, and you have to understand that there's certain things that are risky. And once you get into that, I think that you'd be able to accomplish what I did in this case, what the team did, and how we move forward with this project, what the community did, because we are being as respectful and understanding and working with Ubisoft to make it so that we can both come away with this happy. I also want to put that out there because it's something that goes unsaid throughout this whole thing that I think people need to know.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And I think that maybe it can serve as a model for other teams that might want to, work with a larger company or do some sort of fan project like this, because I mean, you see stuff getting DMCA'd and shut down all the time, and that's really disappointing for everybody involved and for the fans that are involved. But maybe cultivating a relationship where the people working on it are just as passionate as the people that initially released it would be, better for all the parties and for the community at large. So I do think that's a really cool, different way of looking at it. That, yeah, like you said, it kind of goes unsaid, or it just kind of gets sidelined or waysided. So well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk. This has been really fun and interesting, and I hope you had an okay time as well. And yeah, I mean, I have like a lot of positive things to say about like all the restoration mod efforts and stuff like that, and I'm hoping it only gets better in the future. And once I just have this like vision where once people can see that button on Steam and just click install, that's going to open up a whole other world of like, you're going to get other people much bigger than we are that are going to be interested in, streaming multiplayer and getting groups together and stuff like that, because it's the right time for ImSim sickos to be passionate about this stuff, honestly. Like there's more demand for it than ever, I think. And it's like it's kind of come in cycles. There was like a boomer shooter kind of thing in like 2018 that kind of revived, and now I think people are getting more nostalgic for stuff like Deus Ex and like Dark Messiah and Thief and stuff like that. So you're seeing a lot of games coming out or in development that look that way. So I just think that being able to experience one of the originals in a way more friendly format is like super important, super cool, and relevant, And the fact that you guys are doing so much work on a 20-year-old game and somehow managing to like drag it from the brink of lost media is mind-blowing. So I really appreciate getting your perspectives on that. Thanks again for for hanging out.
Yeah, it's no problem. It was good talking with you. Like I said, I could talk for hours.
I'm definitely I'm definitely a talker, and basically the rest of my day is just going to be going through the interview and finding some good nuggets. So
sounds good. Yeah. I look forward to seeing it. If you need anything else, let me know. I'm going to jump to that call now so I don't get fired.
Okay, don't get fired on my account.
Message me if anything, all right?
I appreciate you very much. Thanks for taking the time.
All right.
Have a good one.
Yep, no problem. Have a good one.
Thanks again to King David for taking the time. Let's have one more round for the brave heroes that keep our cozy tavern fire burning, such as
Wolfgang Bristol,
Yaroslav Rybaki,
Adam Uselman,
Amelie McNamara,
James Blake,
Jim DiFrancesco,
Wolpes,
Cameron Frement,
Dominic Nguyen,
John Williams,
Mahogany God King, Vinny 2142. Now that's a futuristic Vinny.
Muggs McGurk 812. Now that's a Dark Ages Muggs McGurk.
I'm Judah Packmaker.
And the rest. If you're still here, thank you all so much for your support.
And let us know if we've mispronounced your name. Thanks for watching, and thanks for 10,000 subs. See you on the next Two-Headed Hero.